Joining us now from Israel to break this down is Hanania Naftali. He works with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's digital team and is a foremost advocate for Israel on the world stage with over 2 million followers on social media. Hanania, welcome. Hey, I want to start with a clip.
Thanks for having me.
Great to have you. Let's look at a clip here. I want you to take a listen. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, or AOC for short, recently gave a very interesting speech on the House floor. Hanania, take a look and give this a listen.
This is a mass starvation of people, engineered and orchestrated, following the killing of another 30,000, 70% of whom were women and children killed. There is hardly a single hospital left. And this was all accomplished, much of this accomplished, with U.S. resources and weapons. If you want to know what an unfolding genocide looks like, open your eyes.
Hanania, you've served in the Israel Defense Forces. You've written about, you've talked about on your YouTube channel and elsewhere, the extraordinary lengths that the IDF goes to avoid civilian casualties. How do you respond when you hear comments like that from a member of the U.S. Congress?
Well, I would advise her to come to Israel and bear witness to the reality, to bear witness to what Hamas perpetrated on October 7th, how it systematically massacred civilians. I was deployed in the Gaza Strip when the war began, and I was a combat medic. We were strictly instructed to only target Hamas terrorists, to not target Palestinian civilians. On the contrary, during my military service, most of the patients that I've treated were Palestinians or Syrians. So it's just ridiculous to come with accusations to the one army that cares for Palestinians, the one country that cares for Palestinians more than Hamas will ever care for them. We're talking about thousands of Palestinians entering into Israel to work from the Gaza Strip, a total of 100,000 working in Israel prior to the war. I saw hospitals filled with Palestinian patients from Gaza, from Judea and Samaria, receiving life-saving treatments from Israeli, Jewish, and Arab doctors. So all of that came to a pause because Hamas decided to wage a genocidal war and try to erase as much of the Jewish state as it can. As Eric, it says on their charter that in the 1988 charter that they want to establish an Islamic state on top of Israel. So it's very clear why they did that, and it's very clear why they say that they will do it again and again and again.
Yeah, Hanania, great point about Hamas's founding charter. This organization was founded, it exists for the sole purpose of destroying Israel. So irresponsible rhetoric there on Capitol Hill, to say the least, and elsewhere in the international mainstream media. But thank God we have you setting the record straight. Speaking of which, hey, we had the tragic deaths, accidental deaths of 7 international aid workers in Gaza earlier this week. Israel has apologized repeatedly and said this was a horrible mistake in the fog of war, but Israel's critics are really keying on this. What can you tell us?
Well, first of all, it's a tragic event. War is ugly. Nobody likes war. Nobody wants war here in Israel. I was in the army. We surely did not want to be in the Gaza Strip. We would much rather be with our families, but we understand that we have to fight not to defend our borders, but to defend our families. Because on October 7th, they ran straight to homes to murder babies, children, mothers. So you don't see Israelis celebrating this event. You don't see them handing out candies in the streets, just like Palestinians handing out candies on 9/11. You don't see Israelis celebrate death like Palestinians celebrate death whenever terror attacks occur in Israel. We sanctify life and we celebrate peace. But unfortunately, we live next to radicals that sanctify death and celebrate terror. So we cannot allow such a thing to exist right next to us. And of course, I'm talking about Hamas, because I have to say, some people say to me that Hamas, what they did to Israel is like animals. But
Yeah.
I think that actually comparing them to animals is an insult to God's perfect creation, because animals, they hunt for survival.
That's true.
And these Hamas savages,
Welcome back to Stakelbeck Tonight. We're talking to our good friend Hanania Naftali, joining us from Tel Aviv, one of the foremost advocates for Israel in social media around the world. Hanania, I have to ask you, you do such great work in, I would say, bringing people together in other countries, places like India. I've seen you on the ground and forging great relationships between Israel and the rest of the world, and of course with evangelical Christians here in the U.S. and around the world too. Talk about the hypocrisy that we see. There's outrage when Israel makes a mistake, but when, say, the Iranian regime pretty much triggers a war in the region, we don't hear too much about that.
exactly. And I have to say, I think Hamas excels at flipping and distorting facts as they are, because Iran is actually the one that's sponsoring this war. Hamas is trying to push the idea that Israel is pushing all this war, global war, World War III, talking about the red heifers that we all hear about. So it's just ridiculous. Also, the Free Palestine movement that we hear people chanting and protesting, freeing Palestine. Freeing Palestine from what exactly? That's the question of us Israelis, because if Israel occupies Palestine, then when was this state established? What was their currency? Who was the Palestinian king? I'd like to meet him, because I know about a King David. So it's what actually inspired me to start and forge alliances and friendships with friends of Israel around the world, because I want us to be not a silent majority, but a vocal majority, because we live in such a time where it's either there's no middle ground. It's light or darkness. This is what this war is about, evil or good. You have to know where you stand. And standing with Israel is, quite frankly, standing for the future of America, because these Hamas savages, they will not stop there. You can't limit this ideology to a border. And therefore, Israel has to dismantle Hamas and this idea of Hamas.